120 damage.
Yeah, gonna want to keep Zoroarks in place still, though, to use that trade ability, keep getting Pokemon in the discard pile. But at the same time, maybe those Pokemon are liabilities, actually. We actually, looking at Jimmy's deck, he does play a Mew EX as well. That could be an option. Could use that to copy Riotous Beating early on in the game if there's not enough Pokemon for Bee Revenge. Or later on in the game, can copy Bee Revenge to, take knockouts on these Psychic Weak Buzzwole GXs.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this. Vespiquen is a deck that, it rotated, but it kind of fell out of favor towards the end. It's a fan favorite of a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Used to really dominate the game, so very cool to see Jimmy sticking with what he loves, sticking with what he knows. And they are just about set up here, and we are getting into the final round of Swiss.
Yep,
here we go.
Both of these players are at 6-2, so they need a win here in order to advance into the day 2 of the tournament. And speaking to these players before, Alex actually let us know he is at 325 points, so getting points here would be huge for him. Not the way he wants to start, though. Just an energy and a pass. No supporter for the turn from Alex.
Yeah. Jimmy starts with double Unknown. Unknown, of course, has the ability retire. When it's on your bench, you can discard it and draw a card. So that's obviously very useful. A little bit of extra draw there, but most importantly, it gets Pokemon in the discard for Vespiquen.
I actually think this Unknown's ability is... I think Retire was the old Unknown from Heart Gold Soul Silver. This one is... Farewell Letter, I believe.
Farewell,
yeah,
okay.
Discard the, yes. But the same effect. It's kind of cool. We see that in Pokemon from time to time. They reprint these powerful cards from the past, and, they end up being powerful in the future as well.
Yeah. Looks like Jimmy is going to Ultra Ball away an Egg. He Compressors away an Egg and a Zoroark, and I didn't see what the other card was, but he Propagates and discards that Egg again. Grabs the Mime immediately. He knows that protecting these little basics, these Zaruas, these Combees, is essential.
Yeah, I think he actually discarded 2 Zoroark GX, which seems kind of interesting. You want to get Zoroarks in play to draw, but at the same time, you don't want to have Zoroarks in play because it's weak to fighting. It's very easy for Buzzwole to pick up knockouts on these. Really valuing getting that Mr. Mime, though, as we see. Does have that 1 copy of Floatstone. That's pretty nice. We'll be able to move this Unknown. We're going to see a Shaman set up here, drawing a couple of cards. Looks like 4 cards coming on from the top of the deck into Jimmy's hand. Does he find a Combee? Needs to make sure he can get those in place so he can start evolving on his next turn.
Yeah, and he's still not done drawing yet. He has both of those Unknown R's. Or, I'm sorry, Unknowns. The original version of this card is Unknown R.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. It's Majestic Dawn. But looks like he has another Compressor. Going to discard some more Pokemon, most likely. Maybe discard a Supporter here so he can use it with VS Seeker. But all in all, a decent start, except for no Combee or Zorua yet.
Yeah, definitely cards he's going to want to get in play. Combee so he can evolve to Vespiquen to start doing damage with that Bee Revenge attack, which does 20 damage plus 10 more for each of the Pokemon in your discard pile. And does want to get Zoruas in place so that he can, use that trade ability with Zoroark in the future. Lets him discard Pokemon to boost the Bee Revenge damage, and can also be copied by Mew EX, the Riotous Beating attack.
Yeah, so it looks like he Compressored away 3 Pokemon, I think, from the Zoroark line, and then played another Compressor and pitched what looks like just more Pokemon. So, he must have cards he wants in his hand, a draw support or something, and he wants to just thin the deck of Pokemon that he won't be using this game. Choice Band on Shaman.
Might be signifying a Sky Return here this turn. We'll have to see if that's what he goes for. We see Execute, potentially.
And Computer Searches.
Definitely a good card to have in your opening hand. Lets you have access to anything you could want to find, really. So we'll see what he goes for here. Unlike a lot of evolution decks, this deck is not playing Bridget, right? It doesn't really need to. You want to dig through your deck a lot faster with things like Shaman EX, with Professor Juniper. You want to discard Pokemon. And, since Jimmy's going second here, getting this Choice Band on Shaman and potentially going for a Sky Return is actually a really good way for him to actually do damage with his first turn, right? A lot of times with these Stage 1 decks, if you go second, you really don't have a solid first turn. But since he's able to get a potential Sky Return off, he can get some damage in play and maybe send up another Pokemon to get knocked out, which, you don't normally want to let something get knocked out, but it does add another Pokemon to the discard pile for later.
So he'll use Unknown, discard it, and draw 1. I don't see a Combee in his hand, but he does have the double, so he will be able to at least do 60 damage with Sky Return here. Yeah, if he doesn't get a basic here, this turn, otherwise, not as good. But he's taking the Egg. Looks like he might Propagate again, or discard it again with another Ultra Ball here.
Yeah, and this can find him that Combi if he needs it, or a Zorua, depending on what else is in his hand. Looks like he's going to go ahead and Farewell Letter once again. All 4 of those unknowns coming into play right away. Ultra Ball going to discard another Pokemon, and it looks like it's a Tapu Lele, I think, and that that Execute, and going to propagate once again. Does he have another Ultra Ball?
Looks that, like I believe, is all 4 Ultra Balls.
Wow.
As well as his Computer Search, and I think 3 Battle Compressor. So Jimmy has almost completely used up every single one of his discarding trainers. And now this setup is looking very, very good for Jimmy.
Yeah, so looks like Jimmy is familiar with this matchup. He's saying, I've played this deck plenty of times today. I'm sure he's played against multiple Buzzwoles throughout the day coming up to this point in round 9. And I guess he's realized Zoroark is not the way to go in this matchup. We see he's compressored them, has not opted to get down any Zoruas, just wants to, value getting Combis set up and, keep those fighting weak Pokemon out of play.
Yeah, and so he's got that double and choice band back in his hand, as well as that Shaman to set up. So he's going to be doing a ton of damage to this Buzzwole with Be Revenge. This Buzzwole will not survive this next turn if he gets a Vespiquen. And Alex, first and foremost, he just needs another Pokemon.
Yeah, and I think Alex is over there signifying for us. Jimmy was able to get 15 Pokemon in the discard pile on his very first turn. That is pretty crazy. Was able to really blow up there.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's the dream if you're a Vespiquen player. And have triple Combi down with Mr. Mime. So he's in probably the best position he could have been in. Alex, all he can do is Guzma. Doesn't have anything. Touches looks like a Muscle Band and a Strong.
We'll be able to knock out the Mr. Mime, but now Jimmy, all he's going to need is a Vespiquen and a double colorless energy. Now with 16 Pokemon in the discard pile, we'll be able to knock out this Buzzwole GX. Looks like he's got the double colorless. Going to go ahead and set up here. Does he find the Vespiquen?
Looks like he does.
Oh,
and he's got it.
And that will be
enough.
And
that should be more than enough. And Buzzwole, it's a taste of its own medicine here. And we'll go down immediately. So very fast game 1 from Jimmy. Seemed almost effortless.
Yeah. I think his deck functioned just as he would have wanted it to there. And, I think that it's a sign to the consistency that Jimmy has built his deck with and just his comfort with the deck as well. He knew exactly how to maneuver each of his turns. He knew the sequencing that was necessary. Sometimes it can be tough, like when do I Ultra Ball and do something out of the deck first, and when do I Farewell Letter first? And Jimmy just showing he knows how to really work this deck.
And something interesting here, I'm sure, Alex is hoping to set up a little better, but he's got to sit here and think, Vespiquen is not a Pokemon that, Buzzwole players have in mind when they're building for, and it deals a ton of damage as a non-EX. Not something Buzzwole is really that good at dealing with. Very interesting. We saw it also with Carson last round. So Alex, I'm sure he's thinking, like, what do I even do?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Maybe he can, just get fast Buzzwoles. He's got the baby Buzzwole as well that could come into play. Swing around. That second attack can take a knockout even if Jimmy's not at 4 prizes. He doesn't play anything like Karen, though, or Oricorio. We see that be a counter to a lot of these battle compressor decks, as they're called. The decks like Night March, the decks like Vespiquen that rely on having Pokemon in their discard pile. We see those be really common counter cards, but none of those are in Alex's deck today.
Yeah, he probably wasn't expecting. I figured Night March isn't that big of a deal, but definitely was not expecting Vespiquen, I'd imagine. And this is pretty sobering reality for Alex here. They're going to set up. Hopefully Alex can actually play supporter this time.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough start over there on Alex's side, but, worst case scenario, these players, even if they were to lose this round, could find themselves in the top 64, come away with some packs, as well as a decent chunk of championship points. As we mentioned, Alex is, still finishing off his World's Invite at 325 points, I believe he told me. So even getting 50 points for top 64 today would put him in a good position where he just needs to do well at a League Cup in order to get his invite.
Yeah, on the flip side, Jimmy, he told us he was kind of just under 300 points, so he would like a big finish here. If not outright get his invite, put him very close to it. And if Game 1 was any indication, he's probably pretty close to securing an invite here with how this has been running.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We see this a lot from these long-time players, right? Like Jimmy O'Brien, like Frank Diaz a couple of weekends ago in Toronto. These players that have been playing the game for so long, they're experts at the game. They know the game so well. They just, they don't play as much anymore as maybe they don't grind all of these regionals like some of the top 16 players they do. They might not go to every single League Cup that they have the opportunity to, and so they, try to just rely on a couple of big finishes throughout the season. And it looks like that it's gotten Jimmy this far, and could put himself with a strong finish this weekend into a good position to get his invite off of a couple League Cups maybe, or even the U.S. Internationals later this year.
Yeah, Alex finally gets a basic, but Jimmy will get to draw 2 cards. He did start Shaman, and he has a double color, so he can Sky Return immediately. But let's see what Alex does here to start things off.
Going second, honestly, Shaman is probably one of Jimmy's best starters. He's going to get that free Sky Return damage and be able to hopefully get some of his basic Pokemon set up. But Alex's start already infinitely better. He's got a Brooklet Hill. He can get more than one Pokemon and play this game.
Yeah. So he's kind of just checking his deck right now. Obviously going to grab a Buzzwole. I think he's got an Energy in hand as well. So good start for Alex, but he's probably looking through wondering, what exactly will be useful in this matchup to stave off the Swarm here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting as well. Normally, Lycanroc GX is a very useful card for these decks, for these Buzzwole decks. It's just such a strong ability to take a knockout with Dangerous Rogue, to use that Bloodthirsty Eyes to bring up something on your opponent's bench. But Lycanroc GX is weak to grass. Very easy for Vespiquen to take a knockout on that grass-weak Pokemon, so it'll be interesting to see if Alex even goes for a Lycanroc at any point in this game.
Yeah, Alex checked his hand there. We saw a couple Energy, a couple Elixir, but not the best looking hand. I don't know if he has a draw supporter in there. So if he doesn't, he's kind of in the same spot he was last game, which is definitely what he wants to avoid.
Yeah, and I think in this game, Alex is probably going to have to try to utilize some unconventional attackers. He may have to attack with the second attack on Buzzwole at some point of the baby Buzzwole at some point in this game with Swing Around to knock out a Vespiquen. Maybe even using something like DNC Prism Star's attack. It does 90 damage, so it'll knock out a Vespiquen. So we might have to see him get a little creative here in this game to try to come out on top in the prize trade, because that's what Jimmy's deck really relies on, right? Being one prize Pokemon, taking knockouts on 2 prize Pokemon. Yeah,
looks like Alex did have a supporter, did have an end, so he will get, that's the perfect supporter he wanted here. Get rid of Jimmy's extra mulligan cards. Maybe hopefully he can get Jimmy to brick off of this. He's setting up to kill this Shaman at least with Buzzwole, so he can start grabbing prizes quickly.
Absolutely. We'll see what he gets off of these 6. May want to find a Remoraid, get that down to get that consistent draw with Octillery later on in the game. Might want to get a Rockruff down, but like I said, I'm not sure that he even wants to put a Lycanroc in play at any point in this game.
Yeah, I do see. I don't think that's a Remoraid, actually.
I thought it was an Ultra Ball maybe in his hand, but maybe not.
Looks like he just passes. This setup's, it's still fine. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, Alex is probably hoping Jimmy doesn't, burn 4 Ultra Balls and a Computer Search and 3 Compressor again.
Yeah, Jimmy's turn was crazy last game. It does get another really great start. Just gets that egg in the discard pile immediately and a Zoroark GX. We know Jimmy does not want those Zoroarks in this matchup. We've seen how he played it previously, so I'm going to assume he's going to discard most of the Zoroark pieces and let that power his Bee Revenge.
Yeah. So he's going to take a Mime here. He knows how strong it is. Alex was forced to kill it last game. So he's going to say, if you want to use Jet Punch, you're going to have to get rid of this Mime again, which Alex cannot. He doesn't have the time to do that against a deck like Vespiquen.
So we'll see with this Compressor. Based on his last game, I'm just going to assume this is going to get rid of Zoroark pieces. Looks like he's eyeing up Zaruas to get rid of. And wants to get a couple of Combees in play. It's kind of funny. We were talking about last game how it looked like he didn't have any Combees in play. We're like, he really needs to get them. By the end of his turn, he had 3 Combees in play. He was able to find what he needed. And, these decks are known for taking longer first couple of turns. You're flying through your deck with Shamans, using Battle Compressor. You're going in and out with Ultra Balls. So lots of access to the deck. Does get a Zorua on the bench. So it looks like he is going to say, maybe I do need to get a Zoroark out this game.
Yeah, he does Juniper there. Little less of a burst here from Jimmy, but this turn's not over. He's got Unknown.
Yeah, it looks like that was the Combee right there. I think he drew.
So.
I'm going to go ahead and throw that down.
So now Alex is probably terrified of this little 40 HP bug because he knows just how powerful Vespiquen can be. Jimmy looks like maybe he's going to Ultra Ball again.
Yeah, looks like that's what he's going for here. Doesn't get rid of any Pokemon, though. Looks like it was just a couple of supporters and a Lysander, maybe. Going to just get another Combee. Maybe he has another way to keep drawing. I think he'd still really ideally like to find a double color synergy to Sky Return with Shaman this turn.
Yeah.
To move it from the active would be good. But at
He
the same
does
time,
have a double.
okay, there you go. So
That
he's gonna.
this is a pretty good turn for Jimmy. You know, not as totally turbo as last time, but you know he's got the Shaman, the setup for next turn. He's got the double. He's kind of baiting Alex to kill this Zorua.
Yeah, and I think he would be just fine with that Zorua going down. No bench damage will come out thanks to that Mr. Mime coming in clutch here for Jimmy. It seems. Alex does have the basic fighting, so he can attach and just use Sledgehammer. Does 30 base damage, so it will knock out the fighting weak 60 HP Zorua. Has Muscle Band as well, so he's got some options. I think he's got maybe a Computer Search in his hand. Looks like he's going to start things off with a Bricklet Hill, though.
Yeah, I think here he's looking at Sudowoodo. I don't know if that's maybe a good choice. I think a Remoraid is a good choice here. You're going to want that draw as these games go on. You know, because Jimmy doesn't have Zoroark in play, or you know, maybe he won't. Alex might have a chance to kind of end Jimmy out of the game late. So getting Octillery would be very huge. But I think he might have. Never mind. There is Octillery in there.
Yeah, so looks like he may be prioritizing getting down that Remoraid. Sudowoodo wouldn't be terrible, honestly. It kind of prevents Jimmy from exploding with multiple Shamans on the next turn. Can maybe mess up his unknowns that he might not be able to bench if he's already gotten Pokemon down. So looks like he's going to opt for the Remoraid, though.
And this is fine. You know, Sledgehammer will just do 30 base, knock out this Zorua, only give up one prize. You know, buy him a turn or something. And looks like he just plays an N. Shuffles that Shaman away, but gives Jimmy a fresh 6 to work with. And if he knocks out this Zorua, Jimmy has fresh cards and a lot of space to work with.
Yeah, so I think if Jimmy is going to go with the strategy of, hey, I don't want to use Zoroark GXs in this game, he's going to want to try to thin his deck as much as possible to make sure that those ends later on in the game from Alex are less likely to leave him with bad cards in his hand, that he's more likely to draw things like VS Seeker, to draw things like Teammates, Shaman EX to draw cards, and just the double color synergy he needs to keep his attacks going. So we're going to see 6 cards apiece from these players. What does Alex have over on his side? Anything else? Looks like he does have, that might be that Octillery there, so we might be able to get that going next turn.
I saw a Beast Energy as well, I think. That can be useful for sniping with a Jet Punch to kill a Vespiquen or a Mr. Mime.
Yep.
But other than that, you know, this is fine for Alex. He's taking a knockout. You know, maybe not the best knockout he wants to take, but you got to start taking prizes.
And at the same time, you're kind of forcing Jimmy to take a prize he doesn't really want to take, right? He doesn't really want to knock out this baby Buzzwole. It's not as great against his deck as it might be against some of these other decks. And Alex does have Super Rod in his list, so he can definitely get this card back if it goes down and get another use out of it.
Yeah, Alex is opting to Ultra Ball here. I'm not really sure what he wants to take. Maybe
Looks like
that's
that
Sudowoodo. But if he knocks out this Zorua, then he gives Jimmy 2 spaces to work with at a minimum. He's looking at another Buzzwole or
a Rock
Ref.
Yeah, Bloodthirsty Eyes might just be nice to have access to at some point. Like, you assume Jimmy's probably going to be able to get enough Pokemon in the discard to knock out the Buzzwole anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference if he's knocking out Buzzwole versus Lycanroc. They're both 2 prizes, so you know, he may still want to have access to Bloodthirsty Eyes later to bring up like an EX Pokemon or something if Jimmy does have to bench a Shaman EX.
Yeah.
But just going to start things off with the Buzzwole. Does get another Elixir, though. See, Alex is playing those full 4 Elixirs.
Doesn't hit. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's playing the full 4 Elixirs, and that's paying off for him here. He's been able to draw them fast this game. With a lot of these Buzzwole decks cutting down on counts of Elixirs, upping their counts of things like B-String, it's been a little harder for them to, you know, find these Elixirs early on, but Alex has played 3 at this point in the game, I think. 2 or 3 at least.
He knocks out this Zorua. Kind of does Jimmy a favor, clears a bench space, gets a Pokemon in the discard, and now, you know, it's really just how far Jimmy will go with this turn. You know, he could maybe go all in and knock out that Buzzwole, or even just kill this baby in the active.
Yeah, honestly, something that kind of interesting Alex could have done, well, obviously we see now that wouldn't have necessarily worked. Jimmy did have his 1 Floatstone, but Alex could have just passed and left that Zorua active, maybe forced Jimmy to put something like a Zoroark GX in play that he doesn't want to have out to make it so Alex could take the 2 prizes later, but Wouldn't have quite worked out. Jimmy did have that one copy of Floatstone in his hand.
Jimmy's got a Vespiquen and a double colorless. And it looks like...
Ooh, an intelligence gathering, actually. Using Vespiquen's first attack, Jimmy must not have had a very strong hand. Intelligence gathering does 10 damage, and then you draw cards till you have 6 in your hand. So able to draw a couple more cards, kind of setting himself up. I'm not sure he even would have been able to take a knockout on this Buzzwole, actually. It was only 30 damage on it, so wouldn't have had enough Pokemon in his discard pile. So using intelligence gathering, drawing some cards.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody use intelligence gathering before. So this is a first for me. But you know, he's up to 6 cards, and even if this Vespiquen gets knocked out, it doesn't really matter for Jimmy. It's a non-EX, and it's more Pokemon in the discard.
Yep, and that would activate Teammates, which is a really good supporter card that we know Jimmy is playing, which lets him search his deck after a Pokemon was knocked out on his opponent's turn for any 2 cards. So that's really one of those key cards in this deck that's going to help him stream these knockouts.
Yeah, it looks like Alex grabs an Octillery again. That'll be useful, like we talked about. You know, maybe he can kind of end Jimmy out of the game later. But right now, he's got to find a way to knock out this Vespiquen.
Yes, we'll see what he goes for here. Could find maybe like a Floatstone to move this active and go for like a Knuckle Impact. You know, Jimmy has had a little bit slower of a start than he had in Game 1, so an early Knuckle Impact could be really strong and force Jimmy to really have a good turn of like multiple Battle Compressors in order to get the knockout. But once again, actually, we do know that Jimmy plays that Mew EX. That could be a factor as well.
He's got a Beast Energy here.
Looks like he's going to Abyssal Hand first.
Yeah. So here maybe he's looking for Muscle Band. With a Muscle Band, I think he will knock out this Vespiquen if he attaches the Beast Energy with Sledgehammer.
That is the case. Looks like he's doing a little bit of that math here. Right now he's hitting for 80, I think. 30 plus 30 plus 20 from the DNC. That is 80 damage, 10 short of knocking out this Vespiquen.
So he's got a Floatstone, though. Maybe he attaches the Beast Energy to the Buzzwole on the bench to try and try and Jet Punch, or I'm not really sure. It doesn't really have a clean way to get this knockout.
So I'm not going to lie. I think Alex here could go for an Absorption GX. It's not super likely that he's going to use another GX attack at any point in the game, and if Jimmy was to miss the knockout on the following turn on the Buzzwole, he'd be able to just stream the knockout once again using Knuckle Impact right after using Absorption. So we'll see if that's what he goes for.
You're actually right on that, and he's setting up this huge Buzzwole, and maybe he does see this play as well. It looks like he just decides to Knuckle Impact instead. Still okay.
Yeah, and this does save the option to maybe Absorption something like a Tapu Lele later in the game if Jimmy has to bench that. So I can understand either side of the table there, which one you want to do. Can just leaves himself with the option here to maybe even Dangerous Rogue something later on as well.
Honestly, Absorption GX could knock out a Vespiquen even after Alex has taken 5 prize cards. So
very true.
Keeping his options open. He's got the Floatstone down, so he can use Guzma plays to kind of reset. Jimmy starts with a Battle Compressor here. Probably just going to thin, get more Pokemon in there.
Yeah, we'll need just a few more Pokemon to get the knockout. He's already got the Choice Band down there on the Combi. Needs to find Vespiquen and double colorless energy as well. We'll see what he gets rid of with this Battle Compressor. I'm going to assume more pieces of that Zoroark line, which we know he doesn't really like to use in this matchup.
Yep. He's got the Choice Band down on that Combi. I don't know exactly how many Pokemon he has right now, but I think with this Choice Band and this Compressor, he should be getting very close to a one-shot range with Vespiquen.
I think he needs to get to 14 Pokemon in the discard pile in order to get the knockouts. He's dealing base 20 with Be Revenge, plus the 30 from Muscle Band, that's 50. 14 Pokemon in the discard pile, and if Alex's dice on his side are correct, that should put it up to 13 right now. So just needs to find a way to get rid of one more Pokemon.
Unknown is a great way to find that last Pokemon in there. Also help him with a little bit of draw.
Actually, maybe only at 12. Maybe choosing to get rid of 2 Pokemon and 1 non-Pokemon. I can't tell what that top card is.
That looks like a Teammates, actually. And with a VS Seeker for Teammates, he will almost certainly have the knockout here. Perhaps grabbing another Compressor and a double. Shaman. Any number of combination of cards here to get this knockout.
Lots of things here will let him pick up the KO on Buzzwole GX, and this is a really good turn from Jimmy O'Brien. And we'll see, what pieces he chooses to get. Looks like Battle Compressor is one of them, and I gotta imagine if he doesn't have a double color synergy in his hand, that's the other card he probably got.
And he took 2 cards. I didn't see what the other one was, but yeah, definitely got to be a double. Compressors. Alex has to know what's coming here. This Vespiquen is not too happy.
Not at all. Gonna be doing so much damage with Be Revenge. Getting revenge for all of those Pokemon that have hit the discard pile so far this game.
Yeah, as somebody with a phobia of insects in general, I think I would still take Vespiquen over, Buzzwole. Buzzwole is a mosquito. Not a big fan of those, but
no.
Neither is Jimmy here, neither is his Vespiquen, and this Buzzwole goes down in one shot, clean one shot here from Vespiquen.
Yeah, 190 exactly. We see that Beast Energy Prism Star going to the Lost Zone as opposed to that discard pile. Gonna send up that baby Buzzwole. Jimmy is at 4 prizes, so Sledgehammer can come in and pick up a knockout, which would be a pretty solid swing for Alex, honestly. And maybe if he can get off a couple of Beast Rings here, he does only play 2 copies, but if he can get them both off, that'd be pretty strong.
So if I'm Alex here, I think if I hit this Elixir, maybe I put this on the Diancie like we talked about. Opts not to instead. But yeah, he's going to need to find some creative ways to take all 6. He can't do it with just Buzzwoles here. But he'll go down to 3 here after this turn. He's still got Artillery. Jimmy's setup is kind of susceptible to end right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
and could come into play for sure later on in the game. He does still have at least a few Ultra Balls in his deck. I don't think he's played all 4 like he did in that first game, so those can always be live cards that find him things like Shaman EX and Tapu Lele. Jimmy's a smart player, right? He's going to make sure he leaves some of those options in his deck. He's not going to discard all of his Shamans just to boost his Be Revenge damage. He's going to make sure those are outs that he can draw later on in the game.
Yeah, the thing about Vespiquen players who have a lot of experience with it, they know exactly when to kind of pedal to the metal and then also when to lay off. And Jimmy here, you're seeing it exactly 190 damage. He knows exactly how to get to the numbers he wants with Vespiquen.
I'm going to see a couple of cards drawn with Abyssal Hand. Does he find the Beast Ring to get some more Pokemon or some more energy cards in play? We'll be able to take the knockout with Sledgehammer. But going on from here, we'll see what he wants to opt to do. Hasn't played a supporter yet, I believe, so maybe could find something like an N potentially that could limit Jimmy's options, but maybe wanting to save Ns for later in the game as well. Ocarina looks like it's going to be the supporter card of choice. Can find that Beast Ring, so we might see a Beast Ring come out, getting an extra energy in play on that Buzzwole GX. Actually opting for Elixir, it looks like.
Yeah, Elixir, maybe he doesn't have a lot of fighting left in the deck and would rather spread them out to other Pokemon that isn't Buzzwole, like that Diancie. Maybe he wants to start powering up this Rockruff, because he knows this baby Buzzwole will knock out this Vespiquen.
Another potentially interesting attack Alex could use. He could use Surprise Attack with Rockruff. It does 50 damage. Flip a coin if tails, it does nothing. But with a strong energy, plus that Diancie's Princess's Cheers ability in play, would actually be 90 damage to knock out a Vespiquen. We'll see if that's a play Alex goes for. That is definitely a little riskier than something like a Diancie attack, since you're relying on a coin flip to even do any damage.
Yeah. Looks like he's going to Elixir. If I'm Alex here and I hit this, I think I want to put this on the Diancie or the Rockruff. I don't think he hit it, which is unfortunate. That's 2 Elixirs I think he's whiffed this game. Does he have a lot of fighting energy in the discard? Is that why he's whiffing them? Or?
Maybe so. There's a chance he has multiple prizes. He may have a couple in his hand as well. He has already gone through a decent amount. There's 3 on the field. We know there was 2 on that last Buzzwole. They got knocked out. Maybe 1 or 2 others have hit the discard at some point in the game. So maybe it wasn't the highest odds Elixir. So we'll just have to see what else he does here. Looks like he's got a Choice Band, debating attaching this. Not going to be too relevant unless Jimmy has to bench like a Shaman later in the game. And looks like we'll just see that Sledgehammer come in. Does do 140 damage to Vespiquen, takes the KO.
So if I'm Jimmy here, really the only thing I want is another Combi first and foremost. You just got to keep these Vespiquen flowing.
Yep.
But other than that, Combi double. If you can find a Guzma and take out that Buzzwole, maybe take out the Octillery. Probably target down Buzzwole, I'd imagine. And that really limits Alex's ability to do anything.
You know, it's actually kind of funny. I think over there on Jimmy's side, we actually see he's using base set energies. As being someone who's played the game since the start, I wonder if those are cards he's had since the game came out.
Could be, yeah. He's got a very storied history. Maybe these are the DC he used to win the regionals a while ago. Stick with what works. He's counting Pokemon. He's got more than enough Pokemon to knock out Buzzful, I think. Looks like he's got 17 in there,
Yep.
which is perfect numbers here for Jimmy, but he hasn't really played a lot of supporters in the past couple of turns here. But that's about to change, I think, because he is going to computer search, grab any card he wants.
You know, Jimmy is kind of in an odd spot here. He's already discarded several pieces of the Vespiquen line, with, you know, the one getting knocked out last turn. So wants to get multiple set up, and he's going to have to take, you know, he won't be able to likely take just 3 GX knockouts unless Alex puts another Pokemon EX or Pokemon GX in play. So Jimmy may have to take 3 more knockouts to win this game by knocking out Buzzwole, then knocking out 2 one-prize Pokemon.
There's Combi, and he's going to set up for, I think that's 5. I think he got that Shaman off of the computer search. So finally get some real draw here.
Does need double color synergy still. Via Seeker for teammates can get him what he needs. No, looks like actually Lysander.
So this is huge.
Does have that
what
DCE.
He needed. Ooh, this is not looking good for Alex now.
And Jimmy's put himself in a position where if Alex does bench another Pokemon GX, he could win the game by just taking his last 2 prizes with something like a Lysander. And this is smart from Jimmy as well, putting that unknown in play, not going to use that farewell letter. If Alex does get off and end this turn, Jimmy definitely wants to be able to use farewell letter to potentially draw more cards.
Yeah, definitely. And so now if you're Alex, you know, you got to think. You've used a lot of elixirs. You're down a lot of fightings. Jimmy is no longer at 4 prizes. You're down 2 Buzzwole. I mean, where are you going to find these 3 prizes?
Yeah, it definitely seems tough. Maybe if he can knock out this Vespiquen and then with something like the Baby Buzzwole, if he can get an Elixir plus attached to it and, you know, attack with that swing around and then find a way to get a knockout on that Shaman EX on Jimmy's bench, that would probably be his best route to victory, but I think he's played like all of his Elixirs almost at this point. Yeah, I don't see any in his deck right there, so it may be hard for him to even be able to pull off a play like that.
You can kind of tell a player's body language when they continue to search through their deck, looking for a card that they, you know, start to see is not there. And you can kind of see Alex is starting to realize, like, yeah, maybe we're running out of time here. Points at the beast ring, can't use that anymore.
Yeah, I think Alex is kind of realizing that he is in a heck of a pickle right here, not in a good spot. The Vespiquen deck just being too much with those 1 prize attackers, being really difficult for Alex to deal with.
Yeah, quite the pickle indeed.
So we'll see what he gets here. Does he choose to get a Pokemon in play with this Brooklet Hill or not?
At this point, I don't think it really matters. I mean, if it's in there, you might as well take it to thin the deck. It looks like there's another Rockruff, but yeah, I mean, Vespiquen is very tough for Buzzwole to deal with.
Yeah, and maybe this is how Jimmy has gotten to this point, being 6-2 at this point in the regionals, just by beating. You know, it seems like this deck has a good matchup against the Buzzwole decks. Probably has a pretty decent matchup against some of the Zoroark decks we've seen. A lot of those decks have stopped running those Battle Compressor deck counters. So, you know, that is probably how Jimmy got to this point in the regionals.
Looks like he's gonna use the Lycanroc GX. You know, if I'm Jimmy, maybe I target the unknown to just buy. Or I'm sorry, if I'm Alex, I target the unknown to just buy a turn. He opts not to use it instead, actually.
Yeah, maybe deciding like, hey, I maybe want to save this for later, and also not put that, you know, 2 prize liability in play that Jimmy can just easily pick off later.
Looks like he's gonna Ultra Ball that Lycanroc. And a fighting again, getting rid of more energy. He's running dangerously low, I think. I see only like 2 or 3 energy in the deck. He's just going to fail the search.
Yeah, just maybe thinning those cards out. Maybe he's going to try to get off and end this turn and really limit Jimmy's options on the next turn. Like, you know, Jimmy does have to get 2 knockouts back-to-back here. Won't be able to just win the game with 1 knockout as long as Alex keeps from putting an EX or GX in play.
Alex, Abyssal Hands for 4. I think they think maybe a card fell off, but
Nope, looks like we're good.
looks like we're good there.
There's a strong energy. We have a Guzma as well. I don't think he's played a supporter yet, so that could be an option. Ooh, we might see him powering up that Rockruff surprise attack that I mentioned earlier. That could be an option to knock out a Vespiquen.
And he Guzmas up the Combi.
Okay.
I like this. So he can kill this with Sledgehammer because of the Diancie. Go down to 2 prizes. Jimmy does have to take 2. There are no GXs in play, so maybe Alex can cheese a win here with Rockruff.
Yeah, if Jimmy doesn't get another Combi on the bench this turn, and Alex can flip a heads on surprise attack if he finds one more energy, he could knock out this Vespiquen. That might be the out that he's playing to at this point. And there's a chance we could see this game come down to a 50-50 coin flip here. We'll have to see what Jimmy can do on his turn. He has the double colorless energy, which is good. That's one less card he needs to find this turn. Field Blower is going to thin that out of his deck. Doesn't want to draw that anymore, and also gets rid of those free retreat options.
So I think if I'm Jimmy here, actually, even if I don't get a Combi, well, never mind.
Yeah, it looks like Jimmy's just saying, I'm not going to deal with a potential surprise attack. I'm not going to mess with that foolish stuff, and just going to go ahead and take that out with the Lysander. Could have gone for teammates there to get another Combi, but I think knowing at this point it's going to be hard for Alex to find a way to knock out this Vespiquen, and Jimmy should be able to just use this one Vespiquen. It's the only one he has in play. Should be able to use it to take his last prize.
Yeah, Alex just kind of lethargic here. He's got to know that this is very bad for him, that nothing really he can do.
Yeah, Jimmy does only play like 1 copy of Guzma, so maybe if Alex had like the corner Rockruff, he could have brought up Mr. Mime to use corner or something like that, but it looks like he's opted to just play 2 copies of that 70 HP Rockruff from the newest set, Forbidden Light.
Alex is just looking through his massive discard, just wondering what options he has left. Obviously pushing up his only attacker.
Yeah, the deck has, this game has seemed much closer than the last game, but at the same time, I feel like Jimmy's been in control basically this whole time. Like, it's much closer, like, we're at a 2-1 prize game, right? It doesn't get too much closer than that. Jimmy's just always been in control this game, it feels like.
Yeah, seems like the prizes that Alex has taken are the ones that Jimmy has let him. And now, he's got to deal with this one Vespiquen. Only 90 HP, but 90 HP seems so far away for any of Alex's attackers.
Gonna seem a little tough here. We'll see what kind of out he identifies. Looks like computer search will give him access to anything in his deck he wants to get.
So actually, if he gets a strong and a choice band, that's enough to knock out this Vespiquen with his...
With the muscle band?
Yeah, with muscle band and the strong energy. Sorry, he can knock out this Vespiquen with Sledgehammer.
Yeah, that would do it with that DNC on the bench. So
maybe we spoke too soon. Maybe Alex has life.
Yeah, that would be 90 damage exactly. Looks like he got one of those pieces off of that computer search. I think he has a supporter in his hand as well.
I think that's a Juniper in there.
So if he can find that muscle band, he does play 2 copies of it. I'm not sure that he's gotten rid of any yet. He's got Abyssal Hand as well. He should be able to draw just about all the cards in his deck almost.
Yeah. Can't see what he drew off that, but it looks like a bunch of fighting energy. Unfortunate, you don't really want to Sycamore those.
9, 10, 11, 12 cards in his deck. So he's going to Juniper into a 12-card deck, needing to find one of his 2 muscle bands. I think maybe he's already played one. Going to actually go ahead and tap Ulele here. Use Karina. Oh, that can just find it for him right away. Gets the muscle band. Not going to get anything else. And this is going to do 90 damage. And Sledgehammer's going to knock out a Vespiquen. And Jimmy has no attacker ready.
Yeah, and so now, all of a sudden, Jimmy is kind of on the back foot himself. He can get rid of that unknown.
Wow.
But that Mr. Mime is actually a target for this Sledgehammer.
And you can tell by Jimmy's body language there, he was not expecting that. That kind of came out of nowhere. You and I even weren't expecting that. That was definitely a good, way to identify what to do there by Alex. And Jimmy isn't able to take a prize this turn. We'll have to find a way to get like a Combi out or something and hope that Alex can't take now his last prize card.
Yeah. So one thing, it looks like Alex has gone through a couple of his Guzma. I don't know if he might have one more left. I don't know how many float stones are there. So maybe if Jimmy can, pull up the Octillery, for example, buy himself a turn. He's got to do something.
Yeah, I think both of those float stones are gone. I do remember Jimmy playing the field blower earlier, getting rid of both of those. He does, only play 3 Guzma, no VS Seeker. So if those Guzmas are gone, he wouldn't have any way to move something like that Octillery if Jimmy was able to bring that up.
I'm trying to think here if there are any targets for maybe a Mew EX that we have not seen. But I don't think there's anything that Jimmy can do to knock this one out. He doesn't run Muscle Band. He runs Choice Band, so he can't buff damage on this baby Buzzwole.
Let's see the unknown farewell letter. Counting the cards in the deck, kind of trying to figure out the odds. What are the odds I draw what I need here? We know he has that Shaman in his hand from that Ultra Ball. See if he can find a Combi. See if he can find some sort of win condition here. Swing arounds would do enough to take the KO here. If he flipped, I think it might come down to a flip again. He would be able to knock out something like the Shaman EX. Oh no, we're gonna see the Guzma here.
That's big.
Maybe Jimmy realizing how many Alex has gone through at this point. Gonna just Sky Return and can just Sky Return this thing a couple of times and maybe.
But I think Alex has a Guzma in his hand.
If he has a Guzma energy, that is enough to knock out the Mr. Mime on the bench.
Actually, no, I don't. No, I don't think he does because he would have played it if he had it.
Yeah, it looks like it might be a Juniper instead of that Guzma. This is an intense moment. Looks like maybe evolving to a Lycanroc there might be what he just did. It looks like we see a Tool going down on to that side as well. Maybe another Muscle Band or Choice Band or something along those lines. Gonna Abyssal Hand draw a card.
I think he might have one Guzma left in the deck, and he's just doing what he can to thin, try and draw it. He's got Ultra Ball, getting rid of those Sycamores. There is a Guzma. So now Jimmy is kind of on a clock. He can't knock out this Octillery next turn, I don't think. So he's got to get a Combi, but he doesn't have a way to recover Pokemon at all. So he might just have to 3-shot this Octillery
with Sky
Return.
And hope that Alex doesn't draw the Guzma. There's the Juniper. Shuffling the deck here. Making sure he shuffled after that last search. I'm going to draw 7 cards.
He's got...
Looks like 8 in the deck, so leaving himself with just 1 card. Maybe Jimmy's going to have to go for like an in or something on his turn. He does have 1 copy of it in the deck.
Yeah, Alex will have that Octillery to bail him out, but I'd rather, force Alex to get it off of an Abyssal Hand for 3 or 4 as opposed to guaranteed having it right now. But Jimmy, he's not really playing a lot of cards here.
Yeah, I think if he goes for the Shaman here, puts it on the bench, and then can use in this turn, put Alex to just 1 card, that's going to be his best out to potentially win this game. Use Sky Return, bring up the other Shaman. Put 30 damage on the Octillery, and just hope Alex misses that last Guzma in his deck, and then Jimmy would be able to win on the next turn by Sky Returning once again. I think that's going to have to be his line of play here.
Yeah, I agree.
So we will see what he has. Does he have access to an VS Seeker? If it's in that discard pile, he will be able to use it.
So he's looking at Hex Maniac.
Not sure.
I'm not sure what he did.
Yeah, it does 60 damage. There's the Guzma, brings up the Mr. Mime, and Alex is able to take his last prize. And we have 7 minutes left for a Game 3. Alex, out of nowhere, coming out and taking that last couple of prizes when Jimmy was in just such a commanding position that whole game, it seemed.
Yeah. Definitely, we were definitely surprised. We thought Alex was definitely out of that. And somehow Buzzwole found a way. Baby Buzzwole putting in a ton of work there. Jimmy, yeah, definitely, he looks pretty shocked.
Yeah.
He thought he had that game wrapped up, and he had day 2 locked. But we're going to Game 3 with not a lot of time left.
Yep, and, Vespiquen does take long turns on its own, so it might be hard for this game to complete. A tie does not knock either of these players out of day 2, but it does, however, put them on that bubble. They'll be at 6, 2, and 1, would be at a point where there's a chance they make it in, but there's also a chance that their resistance isn't good enough to make it into day 2.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I feel like all things considered, Alex played that pretty well.
Yeah.
Did a good job fooling us.
Yes.
And
Fooling Jimmy as well.
yeah. So I think because there's so little time left, it's really in Alex's favor. If he can just take a lot of chump prizes, just pick off things and kind of prevent Jimmy from setting up, then maybe Alex can just steal a quick one or force a tie. Jimmy starts things off immediately with a battle compressor.
Yep. Going to go ahead and search his deck for up to 3 cards, discarding them. Probably going to get rid of pieces of that Zorak line, and it looks like Execute coming to the front as well.
Starts an Unknown again. That's a fine Pokemon to start. You want it in the discard, so it doesn't matter if it gets knocked out here. Discards. Looks like Juniper, Zorak, and Egg, and he's going to propagate and discard that Egg.
Yeah, going to discard that along with the Hex Maniac, it looks like. Looks like he's going to propagate once again.
And Jimmy here is playing very quickly. He knows there's not a lot of time left. That game, it happens sometimes where you win a command in game 1, and then game 2 you think you're going to win, and it goes on for a long time, and your opponent steals a win right at the end, and suddenly you realize, you're out of time.
Yeah, and I think I remember hearing that Alex, when they sat down for the round at this table, Alex actually offered the ID, didn't want to play, was fine taking the tie. I think he feels confident in his tiebreakers. Jimmy, however, wanted to play it out, wanted to try to get that win to guarantee day 2. A lot of players do that. They don't want to risk bubbling out, as we call it. So, maybe here Jimmy in a position where he's like, maybe we should have just ID'd. There's a chance Alex could just be really aggressive here and take a win.
Yeah. Jimmy, he's a little farther away from the invite, so I think he understands that, rolling the dice on tiebreakers and stuff, not the best thing to get an invite with so little time left in the season, and not how he thought this game would go.
Yeah. Maybe recognizing like, hey, I'm kind of, still over 100 points away. I need to have a big finish this weekend, so I'm going to try to get that extra 3 match points and not take the ID. And we see that Mew exiting the field for the first time.
You see a Shaman as well. Looks like it'll draw 3, I believe. So I don't think Jimmy has played a supporter yet, but he gets another Combi down. This is a great opener for Jimmy.
I think he did play that Juniper that he compressored earlier on, so I think he has played it, but definitely still a solid start. And it looks like we're going to move over to Alex's turn. Going to get that Brooklet Hill out, and probably going to find a Buzzwole GX.
Yeah.
Big thing missing for Jimmy, no Mr. Mime.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe he prized it, or maybe he just can't afford to get it down right now. He's just got to get as many of his attackers into play as fast as possible. So I don't hate this setup. Alex just kind of looking through. Looks like Buzzwole's at the front there, so he will be taking that. But Magic, miracle happened in the second game, and now he's kind of wondering how he can duplicate that with so little time left.
Yeah, and we could actually see Alex get a knockout here potentially on this Unknown. Turn 1 would need just a Muscle Band and Diancie, or Strong Energy and Muscle Band, or just like there's just multiple different combinations, Strong Energy plus Diancie. So lots of different ways he could get the KO here. And put 30 damage on the bench somewhere, and probably would just target down one of these Combis.
Alex takes that Buzzwole GX. He was eyeing the Pseudo-Udo for a little bit, but that doesn't really look like it would have been too useful to him.
Ooh, does have that Beast Energy.
That's big. He'll be able to knock out this Unknown, take prizes immediately. I'm not sure what else he has in his hand. I don't think he has the Supporter, but I think there's an Ultra Ball in there. So he could take a Lele if he wanted. But maybe he's just content sitting here and taking out this Unknown.
Yeah, kind of chilling for a turn. I think this is fine. Maybe see what else he wants to go for, though. Yep, Muscle Band going to go on to the active, it looks like. And it looks like it's actually just going to be a Colress drawing him 5 cards. I think he had 6 cards, yep. I think he had Colress and 3 basic fighting energies in his hand. So definitely wants to shuffle those back into the deck, maybe increasing his odds of an Elixir.
Or Beast Ring. The Muscle Band attach to the active is interesting. He already knocks out the Unknown, but I guess maybe he's just getting ready to use Sledgehammer on a Vespiquen. And if he gets a Diancie, he'll be able to knock that out with a Sledgehammer.
Definitely. Looks like we do see that Remoraid come down. Very good draw from Alex, being able to set up that next turn Octillery. And Sledgehammer will take the knockout on Unknown.
So Jimmy will push up this Mew, something we haven't seen in these games before. Immediately attaches a double. He just needs a Vespiquen, and he'll be able to knock out this Buzzwole. Juniper's immediately. Yeah, I mean, he's in a pretty good position, but there's less than a minute left, so Jimmy needs to start going pretty fast here.
Yeah, you can see how quickly he's already playing. There's a couple of Vespiquens coming out. There's that Mr. Mime. That is huge as well, and we're going to see that versatile copying Be Revenge because of that Psychic weakness on the Buzzwole. We'll be able to take the knockout. There was enough Pokemon in play. There was 5 previously to the last turn, and Jimmy used multiple Farewell Letters that turn.
He's got quite a few. But the thing here is the clock is winding down. And so Jimmy will have 2 turns, presumably, to take 5 prizes. And this is not... Time's about to expire.
Yeah, it looks like we may, unfortunately, end in a tie here in round number 9. Definitely feels bad. 2 pretty great games from these players. And we'll just have to see what Alex can do on his turn here. Going to check the discard pile, maybe see how many Pokemon are down. Our timer is done. Let's see if we are synced up with the judges. Looks like time has been called. Alex will be turn 0. Jimmy will be turn 1. Alex turn 2, and Jimmy turn 3. And it doesn't look like this game's going to be able to finish.
Yeah, and if I'm Jimmy, I have just got to be so disappointed and honestly probably surprised at how that game 2 slipped away from him. Jeez.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like he was in a great spot, and just Alex was able to find a way to come back, pulled that strong energy plus muscle band plus Diancie play out of nowhere almost, and took a knockout on Vespiquen. We didn't expect it, Jimmy didn't expect it, and Alex was able to win that game too because of it.
And now Alex is, looks like he forgot to shuffle, probably from Brooklet Hill. But Alex, maybe he's trying to find some elixirs here so he can kill this Mew.
Yep.
Can he not? No, he cannot knock it out with a Jet Punch because he attached that fighting energy.
Yep. As opposed to the standard versions of Buzzwole Lycanroc, we don't really see any of these expanded Buzzwole decks playing any sort of Mew EX counter. No baby Mews in the deck, no Mewtwo's, anything like that. Just Mew EX is just not a card that we see as much of in the expanded format.
Yeah. But Jimmy, it's another tech for the Buzzwole matchup. He understands and respects it. Alex, I think maybe he was looking for elixirs, but I don't think he hit any. He does have Super Rod, though. Looks like he'll probably shuffle in those fighting energy. Maybe he does have an elixir.
Not sure. He does have the B string. Accidentally leaving that hand face up. Want to keep that private knowledge. Don't want Jimmy to know what you're working with. Ultra Ball here can find that baby Buzzwole. Maybe try to get that set back up again.
So he takes the artillery. So that's interesting, actually. I probably would have Ultra Balled first, unless he values that baby Buzz that much, to get another fighting energy back in the deck. But, if Jimmy takes a knockout on this Buzzwole GX, then baby Buzzwole will never be able to trigger. So he'll just need to go the long way to get that knockout.
But we did see last game how baby Buzzwole, through even not being at 4 prizes with Jimmy, was able to take the knockout. So could still be a solid attacker. And, of course, Sledgehammer or Swing Arounds, that second attack with B-Strings can definitely do some damage.
It's going to Elixir. Doesn't hit.
It's an unfortunate whiff for Alex Haas.
So now, if I'm Alex, I guess the way time was called and the prize count, there's really no harm in putting this Buzzwole active because there's no way Jimmy can take 5 prizes.
Yeah, I think we know at this point this will end in a tie. These players just kind of playing it out, kind of seeing like, hey, maybe I would have been able to win, maybe I would have been able to win. Just kind of like playing their hands out to see who could have come out on top in this one.
And Jimmy just grabbing a Lysander out of the discard, and he's just going to knock out this Buzzwole immediately. Mew takes no prisoners.
Yeah, being very efficient here, taking 3 prizes. Whenever you get more than 2 prizes out of a Mew EX, I think that is very, very well worth it. I usually just expect it to knock out 1 Buzzwole GX and then just faint immediately, but able to take 3 prizes here for Jimmy, and you got to think if this game was to play out, Jimmy's in a solid spot here.
Absolutely. Alex is, not really in a position to do much of anything. B-String will trigger here, however. So he can utilize that, at least get a knockout on this Mew, bring himself down to 3 prizes. I don't know how many Pokemon are in Jimmy's discard, but it's got to be a lot.
I don't think it's quite enough yet for a Vespiquen's Bee Revenge to knock it out, but definitely getting close to that point.
Oh, yeah, actually, I do see it. Alex has the dice counters down there to denote that, and it looks like there's 9 in there right now. 10 if this Mew gets knocked out, but he'd still need to stretch a little bit more.
Yeah, he's got the Choice Band on one Vespiquen, double colorless on the other, so could get the knockout with either one, depending on how many Pokemon he discards, or if he's able to find another Choice Band, which we know he does play 2 copies of.
Looks like he grabs a Buzzwole with, I think, Brooklet Hill, B-strings to it. I think he's got an attach, yep. And I don't think he's Abyssal Hand yet. So maybe he can get an N off of this Abyssal Hand or an Ultra Ball for a Lele for N. Just kind of slow Jimmy down.
Yeah, definitely. That seems like that's what Alex is going to try to do here. See what he gets off of the Abyssal Hand. 2 cards. Not sure that I see a support. It does have Roadblock Sudowoodo, which could mess up some of what Jimmy wants to do on his next turn.
Actually, if he plays the Roadblock, he discards a Pokemon for Jimmy. So, doesn't really do much of anything here.
Adds 1 more Pokemon to the discard pile, even making it actually easier.
And Alex has just been discarding Fighting Energy like crazy. He's really running out here. I think he understands that the game's not going to finish, so doesn't care too much about it. But Sycamore's got an Elixir in there. Maybe he can hit another Elixir on that Buzzwole.
Just going to see the top 6 here. Do we find a basic Fighting Energy? Looks like he does. We'll see where he wants to attach this.
If I'm Alex, maybe I even just put it on the Rockruff. Give myself the ability to surprise kick. Is that what the attack is called?
That's right. Surprise attack.
Surprise attack, sorry.
Actually, Sudowoodo's attack, I believe, for a fighting in a colorless does 40 damage, so I think it's Rock Throw is his attack, and that could actually be something that gets up there in numbers with Muscle Band and Strong Energy and Diancie. That's also a potential attacker in this matchup.
Yeah, touches a wide lens to that Buzzwole, not going to matter because of the Mime.
Just burning it out of his hand, doesn't want to draw it later on.
Yeah.
As a Muscle Band, could attach this as well.
He's going to retreat, and he's going to use maybe Absorption. I don't think it really matters. Yeah. One of those attacks, and send this Mew to the discard pile.
Yeah, more than enough damage here at this point. Taking 2 prize cards. Jimmy's going to just send up that Mr. Mime that has the Float Stone. See if he can get enough Pokemon to get this KO.
So there should be, I think it's 11 Pokemon in the discard now. Jimmy is a Battle Compressor away, a couple Unknown away, a big Sycamore.
Looks like that's what he finds there, is that Juniper discards a few Pokemon. See if he can find a double colorless energy here on this fresh hand. And yeah, this definitely... I don't think this game was necessarily over in either direction, honestly. Jimmy, it looks like he's in the commanding position, but we saw all the cute little tricks Alex was able to pull off last game in order to sneak out with the win. Definitely could have been able to do that as well. This is, I believe, turn 2, correct? So,
yes.
Jimmy, this will be his last turn of the game.
I believe this is turn 3.
Oh, okay, so this could be... Yeah, this is turn 3. Okay, we just got confirmation. Actually, will be the end of the game, and... Alex is going to send up Octillery. And yeah, it looks like it is just going to be a tie. Definitely a little unfortunate. Neither of these players really wanted to finish with a tie. You want to get those match points for day 2. But, that game was still not over. Jimmy was in a good spot, but definitely could have potentially done something there.
Yeah, so now as we talked about, both these players are going to be 6-2-1. They're both going to be on the bubble here. And they're going to have to hope that the tiebreakers go their way. Like we talked about, Alex seems like he has some good tiebreakers with offering the ID there. So, maybe he'll get in. Jimmy, we're not sure of yet.